Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I've been catching up on stand-up specials, and I watched Andrew Schulz Infamous. It could have been the top comedy special of the year, and I'll tell you why it's not in a second. It's really strong. The material is on point, but here's the issue. Andrew put it up on YouTube, totally get it, and he monetized it, totally get it, but there are commercials every 5 minutes. And when you watch a comedy special, you need to be able to get into it. There's a rhythm. The comedian takes you for a ride. They change speeds. And once I noticed that there was a commercial every 5 minutes, and I get the monetization, but there's got to be a better way to do it than every 5 minutes. I started counting down in my head, and I couldn't get comfortable. As soon as a commercial would go by, and it's 5 seconds, you can skip it, but it would take you out of it. I'd lose the moment, and then I'd get back in, and then in my brain would start going, oh, it's probably about 3 minutes of the next commercial. Yeah, here it comes, and then it would come. So I was going to bail at the 15-minute mark, and I'm like, I am really enjoying this. I sat through one more, and I made it to the 20-minute mark, and another commercial got me, and it lost me. Andrew's crowd work is fantastic. The jokes are fantastic. I really want to love this special. I'd probably have it at the top of the list, but the commercials, again, I get it, man. You got to make some money, but there's got to be a better way to do that. That said, it's pretty far up my list right now. My best of 2022 list is Carlin's American Dream, Sheng Wang's special best of the year, Hassan Minhaj, second best special of the year. Now, if it weren't for the commercial issues, I'd probably have Andrew ahead of Hassan, but as a dude in a recliner, I enjoyed Hassan more for reasons explained. Adweek asked Conan O'Brien, hey, Conan O'Brien, what was your response when you were pitched to do a podcast? And Conan O'Brien said, I was in our offices at Warner Brothers talking about different things we could try. Something I've learned is always have people around that are smarter than me in ways that are different from how I'm smart. Someone said, you should do a podcast. And I was sarcastic. Oh, really? Because I've been on TV for like 25 years. So a podcast is what I should do, you think? That's good thinking. I was pretty dismissive. And then I said, I could interview some staff members, see how it goes. And then my producer, Jeff Ross, said, well, there might be a deal breaker here for it to work. You'd have to read ads. And I said, do I get to read them as myself and my own personality? And he said, yeah. And I said, I think I'd love reading ads. For me, I was going back to being such a geek for old media. I used to love listening to and watching people who were funny, seeing old clips. This was back before the internet. You'd have to go to the Museum of TV and Radio in New York, and I'd go there and just look at stuff. I've been there, done that, Conan. And it was fun to see Steve Allen interrupt the comedy for a second to do an ad because he was still Steve Allen, and sometimes he was being funny about it, and you could tell he didn't really give a hoot, and he's doing it his way. There are ways to talk about a product, and everybody knows, oh, that's Conan. He's doing a thing he has to do because he has to make things pay for themselves the way we do. The biggest joy of doing the podcast is that it's essentially what I've been doing my entire career, but it has a completely different focal length. That's one of the discoveries of this world, is that there are so many different ways now to be funny, and one shouldn't be afraid of them. One should give them a shot and not be afraid of risk. I think if my podcast had been a failure and lasted a couple months, you probably wouldn't even be asking me about it because the penalty for trying and losing is not that bad. So that's a delightful discovery for me. As I get long in the tooth, they keep coming up with new ways to humiliate oneself. Conan O'Brien, former Tonight Show host. You know who else hosted The Tonight Show and still does? Jimmy Fallon. He was talking with Interview Magazine, and they were asking him about how he would, break character during SNL sketches. And he said, I never did it on purpose, and I always felt bad if I did, but I tried my hardest not to. People started knowing I was an easy laugh, so Will Ferrell or Molly Shannon would go out of their way to make me laugh. We were playing, and I was having a good time. There's probably a bunch of sketches where I laughed that no one talks about, and there's a few that got famous. What advice does Fallon have for the clowns of tomorrow? Fallon said, I think you should not break, but he did not offer an explanation why not. Some other advice to aspiring comedians: if Mick Jagger wants to appear on SNL, try pitching something that's been done a million times and go against your boss's wishes. Before Mick was on SNL, Jimmy suggested he do a bit where I play Mick Jagger in a mirror. Lorne Michaels told him, that sketch has been done a million times. Groucho did it, Lucy did it, it's been done. Regardless, Fallon pitched it anyway, and Jagger said, hey, that's a funny idea. And the sketch did destroy on SNL. Nashville Scene asked Nate Bargatze, hey, Nate Bargatze, on this new tour, you're doing all new material. Have you fleshed out that new material yet? And Nate said, not yet. I've already got some stuff. That's what I'm really doing. I try to mix it in. I just taped a special. The special is going to come out in January, so I'll have it ready by January. I'll just slowly put it in. I'm touring right now, and when I'm home, I'll go to Zanies or something. I think there's a lot of new rooms where you can try and pop in and work on new material. Probably mostly Zanies on a Monday or Tuesday, but yeah, I'll get it all figured out. I'm hoping to focus on where I'm at now in my life and family and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, every time you record a special, you're like, I don't know how I'll ever come up with another joke. You don't feel like there's ever a formula. Every year you're like, I wish I had a system in place, but you don't. I got to figure it out. The panic is what helps you figure it out. So today's a tough day for me. If you've been listening all summer, I had been training for the New York City Marathon, which is today. I had to pull out. Long story short, my calves were killing me, and I was down to being able to run 1.25 miles before they would ache. At the beginning of October, I toughed my way through a half marathon, but there's a big difference between, hey, can I gut this out for another 9 or 12 miles or 25 more miles? So I've deferred to next year. Anyway, wherever I am today, I'm probably a little sad, so you can feel bad for me. Hopefully I can do it next year. I'm definitely going to sign up, and I've got a guaranteed entry because of my deferral, so we'll see how this goes. Now, Vulture wrote an article, Comedy's Crowd Work Clip Civil War. They were talking about Sam Morril's fantastic new special. And in the special, whenever Sam interacts with members of the audience, the director captioned the audience's responses in large neon lettering like you'd see on a meme or a YouTube cover art. Sam sent it to a friend saying, I don't like it. It reminds me of Instagram. And his friend said, that's why I do like it. So Vulture talks about the current trend on social media where you'll see like comedian slams hecklers and all this crowd work stuff. They're all over Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Vulture writes, many of comedy's ascendant stars from Taylor Thompson, Stavros Halkias, and Nimesh Patel, Andrew Schulz, whose special is fantastic. They're all regular purveyors of the crowd stuff, but so are veteran comics like Jessica Kirson and Sam Morril. Now, that's interesting to me. We're putting Sam a generation ahead of Andrew Schulz and Taylor Tomlinson now. That's really interesting to me. I'm obviously wrong. I would put Jessica in the comedy generation ahead of Sam, but I would put Sam with those others. That's at least where he's grouped in my mind. Every comedian I'm mentioning here is fantastic. I'm just talking about like where they're filed away in my brain. Really interesting. Anyway. All of them post multiple crowd work clips per week that look exactly the same. They're 15 to 90 seconds in length, framed in portrait mode for optimal mobile viewing, captioned with big block letters, and overlaid with eye-catching title cards to encourage clicks. The jury's not out on the effectiveness of this strategy. Patel, a former SNL writer, says that the social media model he adopted during the pandemic is how he went from having 0 shows booked in March 21, well, there was kind of a pandemic, to selling out Washington, D.C.'s 1,960-seat Warner Theater in November of 22. Some comedians like Kirson have even began tacking Q&A portions onto their shows to keep the reserves stocked. Okay, now I'm in on the debate. Seinfeld always did that. I guess if you're just doing a Q&A to field your social media after your show proper has ended, you can hear me. I'm not feeling great about that. Jack Angelo is one of a growing number of professionals who work with comedians to help film, identify, cut, and caption the clips they post. Jack says, I'd say a good 60 to 70% of comedy clubs have some kind of infrastructure for filming comedian sets, and I'd say a good 75 to 80% of those venues kind of suck at it. Prices for the service can vary, with some comedians like Gianmarco Sorse, who is fantastic, striking an ongoing agreement to keep a professional on retainer to edit unlimited videos for $500 a month. That's not bad. And 4 other comedians, and Angelo noting that the cost per clip basis is between $25 to $50, depending on the level of sophistication. LA comedian Joey Avery says he invests between 15 and 20 hours into making clips each week. I didn't get into stand-up to be a full-time video editor, but here we are. Megan Galley tweeted in August, I hate to come on here on Twitter and be toxic, but the crowd work clips I see are really bad. You can replace stand-up comedy crowd work clips with census workers asking questions, and I won't be able to tell the difference. Kyle Kinane tweeted, be sure to catch me on my no crowd work whatsoever tour this fall. Sit in the front, introverts. I will leave you the F alone. Gianmarco Sorse tweeted, we need to bring improv back so stand-up comics remember there's a difference. Jay Jordan tweeted, Instagram used to be for hot pictures, and now it's for nonverbal cringeworthy dance videos and crowd work clips. Progress isn't always good. Josh Gondelman wrote, it's so interesting to me that TV networks and streamers are incentivizing comedians to develop increasingly ambitious, cohesive hours of comedy, while tech companies incentivize them to post 15-second crowd work clips. Moses Storm said, we're now posting the most dog crap crowd work clips as if the reason I got into stand-up was to ask who in the front row be dating and who has a job. Even a savant like Sam Morril concedes he takes less pride in the crowd work clips he posts than written material because audiences see crowd work clips as off-the-cuff magic tricks and lower their standards as a result. Sam said, I've often said the demand for content is killing comedy, but I'd rather not sink. And that is your comedy news for today. You can follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, audio-only version on YouTube. And don't forget on Tuesday, what are you going to do? That's right, you're going to vote.